My parents defended my cousin's chaos until he scammed them too. Now they're trying to drag me into their mess, but I'm finally free. I'm 28, male, and for the most part, I thought I had my life together. I've got a decent job, a solid group of friends, and I was saving up for my first house. My parents and I were never super close, but we talked often enough. Things were fine between us, at least until this whole mess started. There's always been one problem though. My cousin Jay. He's 26. And to put it bluntly, he's the type of guy who thinks the world owes him. I'm talking full-on entitled. The kind of person who always plays the victim when his life falls apart, even though it's always his own damn fault. We grew up together and it was constant drama. Every family gathering, every time we saw each other, Jay was in some kind of trouble. He got in fights, crashed cars, lied to everyone, and somehow my parents always excused it. Jay's had it rough, they'd say. He'll get his act together. Spoiler, he never did. Anyway, I tried to keep my distance from him once I moved out. I figured if I kept my head down, kept my own life on track, I could avoid his chaos. But the thing with people like Jay is that they don't stay out of your life. They drag you in whether you want it or not. And my parents? They've always been on his side, no matter what he's done. It's like they were blind to who he really was. It started with a phone call from my mom, Tuesday afternoon. Weird time for her to call, since she usually sticks to the weekends. Hey sweetie, listen, Jay's in a bit of trouble again. Of course he was. His car got towed and he's got no way to get around. We were thinking maybe he could borrow your car for a few days, just until he sorts things out. I could already feel myself getting pissed. My car wasn't some luxury ride or anything, but it was mine. I used it every day for work. There was no way I was letting Jay touch it. The guy had a history of wrecking anything with wheels. He's crashed more cars than I can count. Mom, I can't. I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I need my car. But then, I remembered all the times they defended him. All the times they told me I was overreacting. This was what happened when you put blind trust in someone who clearly didn't deserve it. I don't know what you want me to do, I said, standing up. I'm not giving you any money. I tried to warn you about him. You didn't listen. She started crying. We were wrong. About everything. Please, we need your help. I shook my head. I can't help you. You made your choice when you sided with Jay. I can't fix this. Her eyes widened like she couldn't believe what I was saying. Please. We'll lose the house. I'm sorry, Mom. But I can't help you. I've got nothing left to give. She left. And I figured that was it. They'd have to face the consequences of their choices. But about a week later, I got a letter in the mail from their lawyer. They were actually trying to sue me for support under some obscure family law. Apparently, there's a clause that says children have to provide for their parents if they're destitute. They were so desperate they were going to force me to help them. I called my lawyer, who assured me it wasn't going to go anywhere. But the fact that my own parents were trying to legally obligate me to bail them out was unreal. A few weeks after that, my dad showed up at my place. No heads up. No warning. Just knocked on my door on a random Saturday morning with a box in his hands. I need to store some things, he said, barging in without waiting for an invitation. What the hell are you doing? I asked, completely blindsided. He dropped the box in my living room and went back out to his car to grab another one. Dad, you can't just bring your stuff here. I don't have space for this. We're downsizing, he said, like it explained everything. We don't have room at the new place. I don't care. You didn't even ask. He just shrugged like it was no big deal. You've got space. You're living here alone. What's a few boxes? It's the fact that you didn't even ask, I said, standing in front of the door to block him from bringing in more boxes. I'm not your storage unit. He narrowed his eyes at me. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? You can't even do us one small favor? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? This isn't a small favor. You're taking advantage of me, just like you always do. Take your stuff and go. He left in a huff, grumbling the whole way, but I didn't care. I was so done with them trying to guilt-trip me into helping them. But apparently, they weren't done yet. A few days after my dad tried to use my apartment as a storage unit, I got a call from the bank. Apparently, my parents had reactivated an old joint account that I had with them from college, one I'd forgotten about, and they were trying to take out a loan. In my name. I was stunned. I thought maybe the bank had made a mistake, but after some digging, it was clear that my parents were behind it. They had tried to use my credit to bail themselves out of the mess Jay had left them in. I was livid. But also, honestly, I wasn't even surprised anymore. They'd crossed so many lines. What was one more? I immediately shut down the account and blocked any further attempts. But I knew I couldn't let this slide. So, I drove over to their new apartment, furious and ready to confront them face to face. When I got there, my mom opened the door. She looked worse than last time. Pale, bags under her eyes, like the weight of everything was finally crashing down on her. But I wasn't here to feel sorry for her. We need to talk. Now, I said, pushing past her into the cramped living room. What is it this time? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, like she already knew what was coming. The bank. I snapped. You tried to take out a loan in my name. Do you have any idea how illegal that is? My mom flinched, and for a moment, I thought she might actually show some remorse. But then my dad came into the room, arms crossed, already defensive. We wouldn't have had to if you'd just helped us out like a good son, he said, his voice cold and unapologetic. We're your parents. We raised you. You owe us. That was it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I owe you, after everything you've put me through? You let Jay steal my car? You tried to manipulate me into bailing you out, and now you're messing with my credit? We didn't have a choice, my mom cut in, her voice cracking. We're losing everything because of Jay, and we didn't know what else to do. You're the only one who can help. I couldn't help but laugh, but it wasn't out of humor. It was disbelief. I tried to warn you about Jay. I told you what kind of person he was, but you always defended him. You took his side every single time. And now, because of your choices, you're coming after me? No, I'm done. You can't just walk away from us, my dad said, stepping forward, his face twisted in anger. We're family. Family doesn't turn their back on each other. You turned your back on me a long time ago, I shot back, standing my ground. You chose Jay over me every time, and now you're paying the price for it, but I'm not going to be your scapegoat. There was a heavy silence after that. My mom was crying softly, her hands shaking, while my dad just stood there, glaring at me, like I was the one who'd betrayed them. But I didn't care anymore. I was done being the one they walked all over. I'm serious this time, I said, turning to leave. If I find out you've touched anything in my name again, I'll go to the police. I'm not kidding. This is over. I walked out, slamming the door behind me, and that was the last time I saw them. For weeks, I was on edge, half expecting them to try something else. But there was nothing. No calls, no letters, no surprise visits. They were finally out of my life. And honestly, it was freeing. I didn't have to worry about them anymore. Didn't have to be the one cleaning up the mess they made of their lives. I heard through the grapevine that they ended up losing the house. Jay disappeared. No one knows where he went after he scammed them, and frankly, I don't care. My parents moved into a cheaper place, and from what I hear, they're still struggling, still trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. Do I feel bad? Maybe a little. They're still my parents, after all. But every time I think about reaching out, I remember how they chose Jay over me, how they tried to manipulate me, and how they crossed every line imaginable. They made their choices, and now they have to live with them. As for me, I'm doing fine. I'm finally able to focus on myself, on my own life, without the constant drama. I've got a new car, a steady job, and I'm still working toward buying that house. It's weird, but for the first time in years, I actually feel like I can breathe. Family is supposed to be there for you, but sometimes, you have to walk away to save yourself. And that's exactly what I did. If you stuck around for this whole wild ride, hit that subscribe button. Who knows? Maybe my cousin will come back from whatever hole he crawled into. At this point, nothing would surprise me.